All right, so today we're diving into the world of self-driving cars.
Okay.
Specifically, the debates surrounding the best approach to building their brains.
Right.
Should they rely solely on cameras and AI?
Yeah.
That's the pure vision approach, championed by Tesla's Elon Musk, of course.
Of course.
Or do we need a fusion of sensors,
Right.
including things like LiDAR and radar,
Yeah.
as argued by companies like Huawei?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Can a car really see the world
Right.
accurately and safely using just cameras? Or are those extra sensors absolutely essential for navigating,
Yeah.
all the crazy situations a car encounters out there on the road?
All the different edge cases.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what we're going to unpack today.
Yeah.
Diving deep into the perspectives of Elon Musk and Huawei CEO Richard Yu.
I think what's really intriguing here is this fundamental difference in philosophy.
Okay.
Elon Musk, as you mentioned, is firmly in the pure vision camp.
Right.
His reasoning,
Yeah.
humans drive using vision, so why can't cars? It's a pretty elegant argument,
Yeah.
especially when you consider all the advancements that we're seeing in artificial intelligence and deep learning.
It seems almost intuitive at first.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We navigate the world with our eyes.
Right.
So shouldn't a car be able to do the same?
Exactly.
But I'm guessing it's a bit more complicated than that.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Tesla is all about this concept of end-to-end deep learning.
Okay.
So imagine a car's cameras
Right.
constantly capturing images and video of the world around it.
Okay.
That visual data is then fed into a sophisticated AI system that learns to interpret that data, recognizing objects, understanding the environment, and ultimately making driving decisions.
Right.
It's like teaching a car to see and think like we do,
Uh-huh.
but on a much larger and more complex scale.
Okay, so it's not just about, slapping a camera on a car.
Right.
It's about building this massive AI brain that can learn from
Yeah.
millions of real-world driving scenarios.
Exactly.
And Tesla's not alone in this.
No, they're not.
I've heard other companies are going this pure vision route as well.
You're exactly right.
Okay.
Companies like XPeng and Jidu,
Okay.
both big players in the Chinese automotive market.
Right.
They're adopting similar approaches.
Uh-huh.
And there are some pretty compelling reasons for this shift.
Okay.
One of the biggest is cost.
Okay.
Those extra sensors, especially LiDAR, can be very expensive.
Yeah.
Sticking with cameras and focusing on AI development
Right.
can make self-driving technology more affordable and accessible.
That makes sense. But what about safety?
Right.
Isn't that the whole point of self-driving cars?
Exactly.
In the first place, is a vision-only system really as safe as one that incorporates LiDAR and radar?
That's where Richard Yu and Huawei come in.
Okay.
They don't dispute the power of AI
Okay.
or the capabilities of cameras,
Right.
but they argue that relying solely on vision for autonomous driving is just too risky.
Okay.
Yu in particular uses a really striking analogy to
Yeah.
illustrate this point. Imagine a black car broken down at the entrance of a tunnel on a sunny day. That black car against the dark background of the tunnel opening.
Right.
Incredibly difficult to see even for human eyes.
Yeah.
Now imagine that scenario with the camera as your only eye.
Yikes. That's a pretty scary thought.
Yeah,
So are you saying cameras can be easily fooled in certain situations?
exactly.
Okay.
Challenging lighting conditions like darkness, heavy rain,
Ah.
dense fog, even glare from the sun
Hmm.
can all significantly impair a camera's ability to see
Yeah.
clearly.
I see.
And that's not all. Cameras can also struggle to judge distances accurately,
Right.
especially in those tricky situations that you was describing.
Now, I know we can adjust our vision to compensate for things like glare or obstructions,
Right,
but I'm guessing a camera mounted on a car doesn't have that same flexibility.
you got it.
Okay.
And even a brief moment of blindness for camera, a momentary lapse in perception, can be disastrous in a self-driving scenario.
Right.
Richard Yu emphasizes that a fixed camera can't compensate like human eyes can.
Right.
And that makes a huge difference when it comes to safety.
Okay.
And that's where LiDAR and radar step in. They act as those all-important extra senses.
Okay.
LiDAR uses lasers to create a very precise 3D map of the car's surroundings. Think of it like giving the car night vision goggles, able to see even in low light or bad weather.
Oh,
Radar, on the other hand, can see through fog and rain,
Right.
which cameras struggle with.
Yeah.
And it's great at measuring the speed of other objects.
So they're like backup systems.
Yeah.
Providing information that cameras might miss.
Right.
Especially when things get tough.
Exactly.
It seems like common sense to have as much information as possible
Right.
when you're talking about a car driving itself.
Exactly. They act as a safety net, filling those gaps where cameras can be unreliable.
Okay.
And Huawei is putting its money where its mouth is. They're investing heavily in developing affordable LiDAR and radar solutions, aiming to make these technologies more accessible and bring down the overall cost. They believe that if you're truly serious about safety, you need to consider all the tools available,
Right.
not just the cheapest or most elegant ones.
That brings up an interesting contrast, right?
Yeah.
We've got Elon Musk, the tech disruptor, championing this pure vision approach, almost like he's betting on AI to solve everything.
Right.
And then we have Huawei, this more traditional tech giant, advocating for a more cautious multi-sensor approach.
It is interesting, yeah.
It's almost like two different philosophies clashing.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it goes deeper than just technology.
Okay.
Musk is a big believer in first principles thinking.
Right.
That means breaking down a problem to its core truths and building from there.
Okay.
For him, the fundamental truth of driving is that humans do it with vision,
Yeah.
so cars should too.
But isn't that a bit of an oversimplification?
Well,
I mean, our eyes have limitations. We get tired,
sure.
distracted. We have blind spots.
Yeah.
Why we make mistakes? Are we really setting the bar high enough
That's a good question.
by saying, well, humans can do it, so AI should be able to as well?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can we truly replicate and perhaps even surpass the complexities of human perception and decision-making with AI and cameras alone?
Right.
Or do we need to acknowledge the limitations of current technology and embrace a more diverse toolkit for the sake of safety?
This is where I start to wonder about those edge cases.
Yeah.
You know, those weird, unpredictable situations that even experienced human drivers struggle with.
Right.
How does a pure vision system deal with something it's never seen before?
That's a critical point, and it highlights one of the biggest challenges of facing all self-driving systems, regardless of their approach. Even with cameras, LiDAR and radar combined,
Okay.
perfect environmental understanding is still a distant goal.
So you're saying there's still a margin of error,
Yeah.
even with the most advanced systems? Yeah. That no matter which path we choose,
Right.
there's no guarantee of 100% safety.
That's the reality we're facing.
Okay.
Each sensor type has its own strengths and weaknesses.
Hmm.
Cameras are great at recognizing objects, but struggle in low light or bad weather.
Right.
LiDAR can create detailed 3D maps, but can be fooled by reflective surfaces. Radar is good at measuring speed and seeing through fog,
Okay.
but might not be able to differentiate between a cardboard box and a pedestrian.
So are we being premature in discarding certain types of sensors?
Yeah.
Like what Tesla's doing with LiDAR?
Right.
When we haven't even achieved perfect perception with all the tools available?
It's a gamble for sure.
It's a gamble.
Yeah, betting that AI will be able to compensate for the limitations of cameras alone.
Right.
And that's what makes this debate so compelling.
Yeah.
There are valid arguments on both sides,
Uh-huh.
and the stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah.
We're not just talking about building a cool gadget.
Right.
We're talking about machines that will share the road with us.
Yeah.
Making life or death decisions in the blink of an eye.
And those decisions will have a profound impact on the future of transportation,
Absolutely.
the safety of our roads, and ultimately our lives.
Yeah,
This is much bigger than just a technological debate, isn't it?
it is.
It touches on fundamental questions of ethics, responsibility,
Right.
and the very nature of driving itself.
You're absolutely right. It's a conversation that needs to involve everyone, not just engineers and tech CEOs.
Right.
As self-driving technology advances, we all have a role to play
Yeah.
in shaping its development and ensuring that it serves humanity in a safe and responsible way. And that's where I think we need to shift our focus a bit.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about the hardware of self-driving, the sensors, the cameras, the processing power.
Yeah.
But what about the software?
Okay.
The AI, the algorithms, the brains of the operation?
The part that actually makes sense of all that data
Right.
and decides what the car should do.
Exactly.
Now that's where things get really interesting.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, it's the AI that will determine how safe and reliable
Right.
these self-driving systems truly are. And that's a conversation we definitely need to have.
Okay, so let's talk about the AI, the brains behind these self-driving systems.
Yeah.
We've discussed the eyes, the cameras, the LiDAR, and radar.
Right.
But now it's time to explore the part that processes all that information and makes those critical driving decisions. How does the AI actually learn to drive?
It's a fascinating process, and it varies depending on the approach.
Okay.
With pure vision systems, like Tesla's, it all comes down to deep learning.
Right.
Imagine a massive neural network, kind of like a digital brain,
Right.
being fed millions upon millions of images and videos from real-world driving scenarios.
So the AI is basically learning by example, right?
Yeah.
Recognizing patterns and all that visual data.
Right.
And figuring out how to react in different situations.
Exactly.
It's almost like teaching a kid to drive by, letting them watch hours of dash cam footage.
That's a great analogy, but instead of a human brain,
Right.
it's a complex algorithm constantly analyzing, adapting, and refining its understanding of the world. The more data it's exposed to, the better it gets at making split-second decisions on the road.
Right.
Recognizing pedestrians, anticipating lane changes, responding to traffic signals, and so on.
And Tesla has a big advantage here, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
They have a huge fleet of cars on the road,
Right.
all equipped with cameras, constantly gathering data and feeding it back into their AI system.
Exactly.
It's like having a global network of robot driving instructors.
Exactly. That vast data set is a gold mine
Yeah.
for training their algorithms on an unprecedented scale, but it's not just about quantity, it's about quality too.
Okay.
The AI needs to be trained on diverse scenarios, different weather conditions, traffic patterns,
Yeah.
road types to be truly robust.
Okay, so that's the pure vision approach.
Yeah.
But what about systems that use sensor fusion, like what Huawei is advocating for? How does the AI integrate data from multiple sources?
Right.
Like cameras, LiDAR, and radar.
That's where things get even more complex.
Okay.
Imagine trying to piece together a puzzle where each sensor provides a different piece of the picture. The AI has to figure out how to combine those pieces,
Okay.
weighing the importance of each data source depending on the situation.
So for example, on a clear sunny day,
Right.
the camera data might be the most reliable,
Yeah,
but in a dense fog,
exactly.
the radar data, which can penetrate fog,
Right.
becomes crucial.
Right.
The AI needs to be smart enough to know which sensor to trust in different situations.
Exactly. And that's one of the arguments in favor of sensor fusion.
Okay.
The potential for a more holistic and reliable understanding of the environment. By leveraging the strengths of different sensor types, it's like giving the AI multiple perspectives to work with, making it less likely to be fooled by challenging conditions or unexpected events.
This makes me think about the concept of situational awareness
Yeah.
that we often talk about with human drivers.
Right.
It's not just about seeing a car. It's about understanding what that car is doing, where it's going,
Right.
and how its actions might affect you.
Right.
Does the AI in self-driving systems need to develop a similar level of awareness?
Absolutely. The AI needs to go beyond simply recognizing objects.
Okay.
It has to understand the context of those objects within the driving environment.
Right.
Is that car approaching an intersection? Is it signaling a turn? Is it speeding up or slowing down?
Right.
These are all crucial clues that help the AI anticipate potential hazards
Right.
and make safe decisions.
It sounds like the AI needs to develop a kind of driving intuition.
Yeah.
Similar to what experienced human drivers have.
Right.
And that intuition comes from exposure to countless real-world scenarios,
Exactly.
learning from both successes and mistakes.
That's a great way to put it. And that's where the real power of AI comes in.
Yeah.
The ability to learn and adapt over time. Becoming more adept at handling complex and unpredictable situations. But even with all this data and processing power,
Right.
we're still a long way from perfect.
You mean even the most advanced AI can still be fooled?
Even the best AI can still make mistakes.
Wow.
Especially in those edge cases we talked about, those
Right.
unusual or unexpected situations that even experienced human drivers find difficult to handle. Think about a sudden tire blowout on a crowded highway, or a pedestrian jaywalking at night wearing dark clothing.
Right.
These are the scenarios that really push the limits of current AI capabilities.
So even though AI is getting better all the time, it's still important to be realistic about its limitations.
Yeah.
We're not quite at the point where we can hand over the wheel completely
Right.
and expect the AI to handle everything flawlessly.
Exactly. We're still in the early stages of this AI-powered driving revolution.
Okay.
There's incredible potential, but we need to proceed with caution.
Yeah.
Constantly testing, refining, and improving these systems
Right.
to ensure they're as safe and reliable as possible.
Right.
And that responsibility falls on all of us. the engineers, the policymakers, and the public at large.
It's a reminder that this isn't just a technological challenge.
Right.
It's a societal one.
It is.
We need to have open and honest conversations about the implications of self-driving cars.
Yeah.
Addressing the ethical considerations.
Absolutely.
The legal complexities.
Right.
And the potential impact on our lives.
Well said. And ultimately, the success of self-driving technology will depend on our ability to balance innovation with responsibility, ensuring that these systems are developed and deployed in a way that benefits humanity as a whole.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I'm left with a sense of both excitement and caution.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Excitement about the potential for self-driving cars to transform transportation.
Right.
Make our roads safer and improve our lives.
Absolutely.
But also caution about the challenges that lie ahead. Ethical dilemmas and the need to ensure that this technology is used responsibly.
It's a fascinating and complex journey, and one that's just beginning. But one thing is clear, the future of driving is being shaped right now. And we all have a role to play in determining what that future will look like.
And on that note, we'll conclude our deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And as always, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and stay engaged in this crucial conversation about the future of transportation.
Absolutely.